Lagos Assembly passes 1.046 trillion naira budget for 2018. Lagos Assembly passes electricity sector reform bill into law as the state moves to generate its own power. Lagos Assembly moves to boost the state's revenue with the passage of the Land Use Charge Bill. We have details coming up. The Lagos State House of Assembly has approved a budget proposal of 1.046 trillion naira for the year 2018 after adopting the recommendations of its 9-man ad hoc committee on appropriation as its resolution. A clean copy of the budget document has been sent to the governor for his assent. This is Lagos Parliament. It's nice to have you join us again. I am Abimbola Agbebi, and this is how we begin the show.
Get closer to your legislators. See them in action as they deliberate on moving the state forward. Watch updates on weekly events, presentation of bills, passage of laws, adoption of resolutions, and many more. Also, get a chance to meet the lawmaker of the week and watch the legislators. Observe plenary in Yoruba language. Lagos Parliament, every Thursday, 7:30 p.m. on TVC News Nigeria. Lagos Parliament, bringing the legislature closer to you.
When on the 28th of December 2017, the Lagos State House of Assembly committed to a 9-man ad hoc committee the proposed 1.046 trillion naira budget, it was to ensure that the document was properly scrutinized. Chairman of the committee, Honorable Bolahon Ishao, and other members had since swung into action. The Appropriation Committee on Tuesday presented its report to the House containing its observations and recommendations.
A. Financial issues. 1. The capacity building head under capital expenditure in the Office of a State Auditor General should not be there because it is an overhead cost and there is need to augment the amount by 80 million. The Ministry of Economic Planning and Budget and Office of the State Accountant General / Permanent Secretary should ensure that there is prompt release of funds by STO in order to have correlation of actual amount expended by MDAs.
The report was adopted for debate following its presentation. Having dotted the I's and crossed the T's, the budget was approved and a clean copy sent to the governor for his assent.
Be approved as the budget size for 2018. All in favor say ayes. Those against nay, the ayes have it.
Tagged the budget of progress and development by Governor Akinwumi Ambode. The lawmakers are optimistic about the massive infrastructure renewal about to take place in Lagos through the budget.
You'd see it's been termed the budget of progress and development, and you'd find out that most or part of the electricity sector reform initiatives are embedded in the budget. So as thus why the bill was passed into law, and they saw and deemed it fit, and I believe it's a very important one, and to the extent to which it is, it's for progress and development.
The budget is all encompassing, trying to take care of all the ongoing projects, then introduce new ones that will be so central to the development of the state. So it's a good one, and I must commend the leadership and distinguished members for doing a very yeoman job to ensure that the budget is passed.
As promising as the historic budget appears, the lawmakers urge Lagosians to play their part through the payment of their taxes to aid the funding of the budget. Now, all appears to be set for the Lagos State government to generate its own power with the passage of the Electricity Sector Reform Bill by the State Assembly. The law, among other things, intends to ensure the generation and distribution of power through its embedded power scheme.
Honorable members, I have the honor to read for the third time a bill for a law to improve electricity supply to support economic development by the implementation of a sustained initiative in power generation, distribution, and evacuation through an embedded power scheme in Lagos State, the enforcement of consumer rights and obligations, and other related matters. Thank you, sir.
That a bill for a law to improve electricity supply, power generation, distribution, and evacuation through an embedded power scheme in Lagos State and the enforcement of consumer rights and obligations and for connected purposes be passed into law. All in favor say ayes. Those against nay, the ayes have it. Mr. Clerk, kindly forward the clean copy to His Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Kiwumi Ambode, for his assent. Thank you.
Get closer to your legislators. See them in action as they deliberate on moving the state forward. Watch updates on weekly events, presentation of bills, passage of laws, adoption of resolutions, and many more. Also, get a chance to meet the lawmaker of the week and watch the legislators. Observe plenary in Yoruba language. Lagos Parliament, every Thursday, 7:30 p.m. on TVC News Nigeria. Lagos Parliament, bringing the legislature closer to you.
And joining us to talk about the plans by the Lagos State government to generate its own power is the Chairman House Committee on Energy and Mineral Resources, Honorable Folajimi Mohammed, member representing Ikeja Constituency 1 in the State Parliament. Honorable, you're welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
It's so nice to have you join us.
Thank you.
All right, let's start this way. The Lagos State Electricity Sector Reform Bill was on Monday the 29th of this year, January this year, passed into law. Now, what is your immediate reaction to this as the Chairman House Committee on Energy and Mineral Resources?
Well, firstly, it's good to know that after a very long period of time of deliberation and going through all the readings, eventually it's been able to sail through and the bill has been passed into law. So it's something that I would say a landmark of a type of bill that was passed into law. So I'm extremely excited about it.
Now, a cross-section of Nigerians, Lagos residents, have what I would call mixed reactions towards the workability of this law. While some are already applauding the initiative by the state government, some are a bit skeptical about its workability. Now, from the pulse, because I had to go on the street to feel the pulse of some residents of the state, and the feedback we are getting is power issue in Nigeria is a long-standing issue. I mean, they're beginning to see it as a problem that has come to stay. Now, how would you correct this notion? Looking at the intent of this law, I mean, what this law seeks to achieve?
Well, you see, you would agree with me that the Power Committee on the executive side have done a lot of work to come to this particular point. Now, what we need to understand here that the embedded power bill seeks to take into consideration the full value chain, starting from the generation, the distribution, and the transmission. Now, what you find out is that they are generating and that they are partnering with the distribution companies. So they're already existing infrastructures, which will be upgraded by the state executive where the need be. So right now, what we had that were major issues were because there were different separation of the separate angles or the separate arms, which are sometimes you can generate a lot, sometimes transmission can be an issue, distribution can be an issue, but now this is a total value chain. As much as them even going as far as the feedstock, which could be a big challenge, which usually is the gas. And when we had problems from the Niger Delta, now they've even embarked on what we call an FSRU, a floating storage regasification units, whereby they're not relying on the Niger Delta source of gas alone, but they've also given alternatives with certain other feedstock merchants.
Now, I may be speaking the minds of some residents of Lagos right now.
Okay.
Now, in this embedded power scheme, are we looking at Lagos having an uninterrupted power supply?
Well, hopefully, you see, hopefully it should be. It's a pilot scheme. It's the first of its type. And if you look at all the loopholes that we've had in the power chain ordinarily, you'd find out that they have been able to plug all the holes that they've realized that the power system had been having before. So right now, when it comes to issues of power generation, it's all sorted. They're not taking out the DISCOs. The DISCOs have the existing infrastructure by virtue of the agreements with the federal government. So they will be factored on a wheeling charge basis. And of course, with the transmission upgrades and whatnot, the state government is ready to do that. So to all intents and purposes, yes, I believe this will work as a 24-hour uninterrupted power system.
It is on record that the state is planning to generate 3,000 megawatts of electricity. Now, I want to know, is the state trying or planning to add the 3,000 megawatts of electricity to the national grid, or is it for the consumption of Lagos residents alone?
Okay, so what happens right now? 27% of power comes to Lagos alone. Lagos alone is taking 27% of power. So now with the 3,000 megawatts that will be generated, it's not going to be all at once. In the first quarter of 2018, they're looking to generate about 1,000 megawatts. By 2019, 2020, the balance of the 3,000 megawatts. So basically, the power that is being generated is strictly for Lagos, and it's off the national grid, and it's being served as why it is called an embedded power, is within the state and is served to the inhabitants and the constituents of the states.
And now briefly, can you just give us some kind of highlight, let us into some of the sections of this bill that will be of interest to the ordinary man on the street with regards to this electricity sector reform bill?
I don't know if it will be of interest, but I'll tell you something that's interesting. This is the first bill that would include a power theft. Power theft has been one of the major issues we've had within the value chain system, whereby someone picks up a meter, is looping onto someone else's own right now, and collection. So when you start to steal power, or you start to bypass power, or you start to obstruct, I mean, the different grades and different categories of penalties and offenses, which are moderated for the different things. So there's offenses that start with power generation, offenses that start with the transmission and distribution. So this will be a very big deterrent to people who intend to obstruct the power in future.
Now, it's quite interesting that this House of Assembly has passed into law this electricity sector reform bill. I mean, I needed to talk to a Lagos resident right now in terms of what's they stand to benefit from this law.
Well, on the personal point of view, uninterrupted power supply, comfort, peace, and tranquility, and also security. The security of the state is based on power as well. So if we have a 24-hour system, lighting system, we find that the lives of the citizens, which is very paramount to the state government, is guaranteed. The security of the citizens is guaranteed. And then also you can imagine that we have a 24-hour uninterrupted power supply. Businesses will thrive. Businesses will thrive. There's no need, even as far as the vulcanizing road, the plumber, or say even the average person who needs his constant, even the traders, everybody, once they realize that they have an uninterrupted power supply, then there's a proper business-driven society, and also in turn it improves the IGR of the state.
Now, talking about affordability, how affordable will electricity be for the residents of Lagos when eventually we have the uninterrupted power supply?
Well, see, that was one of the tricky part of the bills, because after all, the state government is still going to...
I'm sure Lagos residents will want to know that part.
They do want to know that part, but I'll tell you something. You find out that where there's a willing buyer, there's a willing seller. people would pay for electricity if they find out that it is serving the purpose for which they'll be doing. Now, imagine now there's no electricity as opposed to you paying a tariff and you can project a constant supply of electricity. If I'm a businessman and I know that, yes, I pay XYZ amount for a period of time, I can factor it in my projections. The cost of, yes, the increments might be slightly higher than the normal thing, but it wouldn't be as much as the cost of using diesel, which we're doing right now. So once we can get a stability and there are other factors which are in place, we have to put the cost and the variables together, and when it can be justified, before any increment or before any determination, it still has to go to the National Electric Regulation Commission in Abuja, NERC. So any tariffs are still subject to the NERC's approval from Lagos State, but there will be a council in place which will suggest and represent the consumers within Lagos State and to be able to reflect the tariff as those.
Okay, that's quite interesting. Now, talking about funding, what is the funding for this historic project?
What do you mean funding? Funding in what parts?
The funding plan for the project.
You would have embedded power providers who have the capability, who are well seasoned in the power business. They get their concessions. What happens and what the state gives you is a bank guarantee, a rolling bank guarantee, to say that if you generate to a certain amount of whatever you've been dedicated, maybe it's ring-fenced, let me tell you that now. So the system is going to be a ring-fenced distributional zonal system. What happens is that someone in maybe, say, Ikeja is going to be generating for the people in Ikeja, someone in VI, someone in Oshodi, someone in Surulere. So basically what you have, it's ring-fenced. So to that extent, you find out that the generation system is in par with the particular community and the audits and the load that is expected from that particular place.
All right, so in general, what would your advice be to residents of Lagos? I'm sure they are all anticipating, they can't wait to have an uninterrupted power supply, seeing what this nation has been, faced with, years back.
I can't wait as well, I tell you that. But what I would see is we should be patient. The Lagos State government has gone as far as negotiating with the federal government to get a no objection letter, which is to say that they always, at all points in time, realize that power is federal, and they've been given their no objection to do this. And also, what Lagos State government residents should do is to exercise a bit more patience and see the vision of His Excellency, Mr. Akinwumi Ambode, in driving the Lagos State as a center of excellence.
All right, the historic budget proposal of 1.046 trillion naira. I guess it's one project that will go up a huge amount of money from our budget. Well,
if you have to prorate the effects of what it's going to have and what it will have in return to the IGR, I don't think it would necessarily say it's gulping from the budget. Yes, it's a substantial amount, but it's a long-term improvement and investment.
Definitely.
Yes.
All right, it's been nice having you on the show, sir. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I've been chatting with the Chairman House Committee on Energy and Mineral Resources, Honorable Folajimi Mohammed, member representing Ikeja Constituency 1 in the State Parliament. Thank you so much for coming once again. The program continues shortly. Please stay with us. In a related development, the Lagos State House of Assembly has passed into law a bill for a law to provide for the consolidation of property and land-based charges in the state, while it also made provisions for levying and collection of land use charge in Lagos State, among others. The lawmakers are optimistic about the law and its capacity to give the state's revenue a boost.
Is House of Assembly Bill number 46, Land Use Charge Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2018, slated for its third reading. Mr. Speaker, may I move that the said bill, Land Use Charge Repeal and Reenacted Bill 2018, be read for the third time? I so move.
Those against, nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Clerk.
Distinguished honorable members, with your kind permission, I have the honor to read for the third time a bill for a law to repeal the Land Use Charge Law 2001 and enact the Land Use Charge Law 2017 to provide for the consolidation of property and land-based rates and charges payable under the Land Rates Law, the Neighborhood Improvement Charge Law, and Tenement Rates Law in Lagos State into a new land-based charge to be called Land Use Charge, to make provision for the levying and collection of the charge and for connected purposes.
A bill for a law to provide for the consolidation of property and land-based charges and make provisions for the levying and collection of land use charge in Lagos State and for connected purposes be passed into law. All in favor say ayes. Those against nay, the ayes have it. Mr. Clerk, kindly forward the clean copy to His Excellency Mr. Akinwumi Ambode for his accents.
On a very sad note, the Lagos State House of Assembly has called on Governor Akinwumi Ambode to immortalize a member of the State Executive Council, Mr. Deji Tinubu, who slumped and died on the football pitch last week. The lawmakers said this during the legislature's plenary, after which a minute's silence was observed for the soul of the departed. Describing the late Deji Tinubu as a gentle and hard-working young man, the Speaker asked that a letter be written to the state governor asking that Deji Tinubu be immortalized for his contributions towards the development of sports in the state and the country at large.
We had the news of the demise of one of our own, our friend, our brother, Mr. Deji Tinubu, who was Special Advisor on Commerce and Industry to His Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Akinwumi Ambode. It was a tragic one. It was a sad news. But we were helpless. We couldn't bring him back. We could not revive him, but we surrender it all to Almighty God, who gives life and also takes life. We lost Deji Tinubu while he was doing what he loves most. He was on a football pitch when he had an heart attack. And since then, we've been mourning. It was unfortunate. His wakekeeping will take place today at the Victoria Island. But before we continue the assignment of today, I will want to urge my colleagues to rise and observe a minute silence in his honor, and also urge the clerk to do a condolence letter to his family.
In that very dramatic, very sudden, very unexpected, very shocking, and very unbelievable circumstances, Mr. Speaker, the gentleman that we are talking about this morning, before emerging as Special Advisor on Commerce and Industry, was for many years a top-notch in the sports kernel of Lagos State. He was for many years chairman of the Lagos State Sports Commission. He was Special Advisor to His Excellency on sports. And as a calling, he was a sports analyst, sports commentator, sports administrator. He had given his all to development of sport. And like Mr. Speaker said, it's so ironical that he died in the field of sports. That's to show that he was a man of very special caliber, who was special and generic in many ways. Mr. Speaker, a man that did so much in the service of Lagos State should not be forgotten so soon. I want to, in addition to what Mr. Speaker has said, to urge the Lagos State government to immortalize the late Deji Tinubu for what he had done in the field of sports in Lagos State.
I just want to harp on a lesson we must all learn from the tragic event. We learned that before the game of soccer that day, medical examinations were conducted for almost everybody, and the medical report confirmed that he was hale and hearty And as a matter of fact, his result was said to even be one of the best among other persons investigated. But he died that day. The lesson therefore, Mr. Speaker, is that no matter how sound we are, no matter how careful we are, one day we will all pass away. So it's always good to live our life as if we will not see another day. And I do not think, Mr. Speaker, it will be out of place to immortalize his name with any structure around the area where he died on the spot. So we may also call on the governor of the state to immortalize his name by naming any structure around that premises where he died in his name. That will keep the memory alive. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I want to pitch my tent with those who have spoken earlier on about the need to immortalize him for the wonderful job that he has done, especially in the area of sports, not only for Lagos State, but Nigeria as a whole. I also want to remember him for his humility, very easygoing, very gentleman, very cool, and very respectful. I've had cause to meet with him, like most of us will have had cause to meet with him while he was alive, and he demonstrated that well enough without needing to begin to rehash some of the things that happened between us. I want to also say that even before Mr. Deji Tinubu got to government circles, I remember in the late 90s to the beginning of this millennium, it was a household name for those who are following sports. Once again, I commiserate with the family and the sporting community in Nigeria as a whole.
He's writing the governor and his team, the members of the cabinet, a letter of condolence, and also appealing to them to immortalize DG in the area of sport within our facilities here in Lagos State. Can we please rise and observe a minute silence in front of
And on that note, it's a wrap on this week's episode of Lagos Parliament. We thank you for watching. Till I see you again next week. Remember, you can watch previous episodes of the program on www.youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Abimbola Agbebi. See you next week.